Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Wednesday, the 6th day of July in the year 2022. This is a budget hearing for the Department of Recreation with the Jersey City Municipal Council. We had a scheduled 3:30 p.m. start. The clock on my cell phone is showing 3:47 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this budget hearing? Councilperson Ridley.
Here.
Councilperson Prinzary. Councilperson Soleil.
Here.
Councilperson Gilmore. Here. Councilperson DeGise.
Here.
And Council President Waterman. Here. We have 6 council members in attendance at 3:47 p.m. In addition, at its time of its preparation, the notice of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Friday, July 1st, 2022 at 3:47 p.m. to the Municipal Council, Mayor, Business Administrator, Corporation Council, and the local newspapers, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. We have here with us our Director of Recreation and Youth Development, Lucinda McLaughlin. And Director, if you would like, I know this is probably the crowdest I've ever seen the caucus room so far. You brought your staff, so if you would like to introduce your staff members who are here with us, you can go right ahead to do so. I don't want to put you on the spot. And excellent. And if you can just put the mic on, you weren't here earlier. So when the mic is on, you're just pressing the little button. It'll be green like mine is, and when you shut it off, it'll be red. Okay? I'm going to turn it over to the Director first to introduce her staff, and then I'll turn it over to our co-chairs, Councilperson Ridley and Councilperson DeGise.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So I just brought some backup in case there's a specific question I don't have the answer to in my brain. So with me here today is our Fiscal Officer, Donna Ward, Deputy Director, Joe Mackey, Administrator of Aquatics and Facilities, Rosemary Nunez, and Division Director for the Division of Enrichment, Keith Donath.
Okay, great. Usually I like to let you go through the PowerPoint and then we'll save all questions to the end, but your division, your department is a little more complex than some of the others, looking through all of the org charts. So let's start by going through the PowerPoint, and then once we get to the different divisions, you can tell us exactly what that division does, if you want to go over the goals for that division.
Sure.
And then go through the org chart, and we'll take specific questions on that specific division at the end of your presentation on that division, instead of waiting all the way to the end.
Got it, Councilwoman. Thank you. So here we are, and relatively recently, just over the past couple weeks, the Division of Parks has joined the Department of Recreation and Youth Development. So we're going to try to cover a lot of ground and make sure that I'm conscious of your time. And obviously, we are asking for things that we need to run, good, safe programs, keep our staff prepared, certified, ready, keep the public informed, and most importantly, have the materials that we need and the staff that's capable of engaging youth across the city and capable of keeping people alive at our aquatic facilities. So here we are, and if you forgive me, I don't have it on the screen because we had a little internet issue, and rather than waste time dealing with that, we made some printed copies, and so we're ready to go. Okay, so our department now has 3 different divisions within it: enrichment, recreation, and parks. Our parks is our parks maintenance. So we're not building parks, we're keeping them together. On our first page, I just have a brief overview of what we're doing, right? So our mission is to empower Jersey City's youth to contribute in our diverse community and beyond. Our vision is that all Jersey City children, youth, and young adults are thriving and productive, creating diverse and successful communities, irrespective of race, ethnicity, income, sexual orientation, or ability. That mission statement does need to be rejigged to include parks maintenance, so forgive me, it hasn't been done yet, but we're going to get to that because they are an integral part to everything that we are doing, and it's going to be a great partnership to make sure that everything's ready to go. So in the Division of Recreation, actually, I'm going to skip these 2 boxes because as we go through, I think I can best explain. So when you look here at the budget analysis and the employee headcounts, I don't know how much you guys want to know about that, but obviously when you look at the money, it's considerably more money because we now have an entire division that used to operate in a different realm that is now part of our department. And also when you look at the employee headcounts, I think it's somewhat deceiving to see 80 part-time last year, what then looks like a decrease in part-time employees this year. For those of you, or I assume everyone will recall, we went through a reorganization, and part of that we also had to fix some longstanding civil service issues with seasonal employees that had been carried for entirely too long. So we basically moved all of the seasonals in as part-time employees, but not everybody finished that process and ultimately transitioned into part-time employment. So now with the three divisions combined, we have 81 full-time employees and 68 part-time employees. And those are permanent part-time employees, not the summer seasonals who come in to do all sorts of things for the city. So if we look here, we can see the department is organized with obviously the department up top and then three divisions: enrichment, recreation, and parks maintenance. When we come into the director's office, it's just myself, a deputy director, and an executive assistant and clerk. Basically, we have someone who's sitting in the office following up on things that we need done, and then I have someone who can go out to visit different sites if we have programs or facilities to, be my eyes that are out on the field if I cannot physically be in the field myself.
Who's that does that?
That's Julian Wright.
Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't see where you were, Councilman, even though you're right across. I was looking for your voice. And that is Julian Wright, who has, to be fair, again, you guys may know this, but a lot of our employees basically started with the department as like teenagers and enjoyed what they were doing and have translated that into professional work with the department. So Julian is one of those individuals that I'm fairly positive grew up within the department for sure as a teenager and on, and we're trying to find the best use for everybody's skills, and he is good at the gopher and checking up around town and giving us a good idea of what's going on. Because as we all know, we can't be everywhere at once. This is our attempt to be everywhere at once. So when you look at enrichment and parks maintenance and recreation coming up, the way it looks, it's a little bit rejigged from what might be in your brain. Because in the past, we had our enrichment, which would have been, non-athletic programs, and then we had our athletic programming under the recreation umbrella. What I've done now is sort of rethink what are we doing and how are we doing it? Because a lot of our athletic programs are programs. So they need the same structure as an enrichment program, as in like a start and an end and goals and appropriate staffing ratios. So we're going to be moving all of our active programming that is not aquatics related, that's going to be envisioned under the enrichment arm. So if you're signing a kid up for a program, that program is going to be all through Division of Enrichment. So we have consistency with everything, right? With how we train our staff, with how we interact with parents. It's all going to be consistent, and it's all under the leadership of Keith Donath, who is here after a very long day 2 of our summer program starting up yesterday. I guess in the middle of the day, because we're about to start our evening activities right now. So when you look here, you're going to see some familiar sports names, but that's the point, because sports are enriching, and that we have our facilities in a different area of the department. So here we really have a couple different pods of staff. Depending on where we are is who's supervising and what we're doing. And we've tried to diversify our offerings for the community beyond the traditional, basketball, and we're improving soccer. We have our boxing is doing great. We have a great following in track. We've tried some new opportunities like bucket drumming. I know I'm mixing up, guys. I know there's a page for that, but I'm proud of what we're doing, and I will talk about it as often as I can. Aquatics is knocking it out of the park. 2 years ago, we were the only game in town even opening our pools, and the national shortage and challenges of lifeguards certainly are shared by us here. And it is an everyday activity to make sure that we have adequate staff on site. That's a whole person's job just to track, who's calling out and who's coming in. But we will only operate our facilities at a safe ratio. So if you have any questions about the pool operation specifically, but we're the leader in the state when it comes to how we're operating our pool. And if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those out.
How does one become a lifeguard? I've received this question, is there a certification process? Does the city have a training program for folks that want to become lifeguards?
The answer is yes to both of those things, Councilman. In order to be a lifeguard, you have to be a Red Cross certified lifeguard for us to hire you here in Jersey City. You can become a Red Cross certified lifeguard a few different ways. One might be that you enroll in a lifeguard training program through our aquatics department, our division, we are running aquatics. We're running lifeguard training even now. Obviously, we are hopeful that the people that we train and certify are going to then want to work for us, but it's open to anybody who wants to sign up for those classes. And we not only certify, up front, but then when someone does work for us as a lifeguard, we have in-service trainings constantly to make sure that we are confident in our abilities and in our decision making, and that every person is confident in their decision making. We have a lot of young first year lifeguards who come out, so we have a very good mentorship program and a lot of leadership at the top who's also been through the system, right? So it's a known quantity, and aquatics is doing a great job of.
Can I ask a question? Do
Yes.
all your staff know how to swim?
I'm gonna go probably assume the answer is no.
The reason why I'm asking, because a lot of kids are drowning.
So Councilwoman.
That's why.
Yes.
Lifeguard can't get them, but if a staff member is walking around, if they know how to swim, they can save them.
So I have never administered a swimming test to my general staff, so I don't know the answer if everyone that
Okay.
is an employee can swim. I assure you that anyone who is a certified lifeguard or a supervisor of baths and pools or a supervising lifeguard or the administrator of aquatics and facilities can swim.
In addition to that, we also.
And Ro, if you want, we're going to come up here so you can be on the microphone, just so.
We also welcome our current staff. So we have had a few of our laborers transition to lifeguards. So that is the goal. It's a stepping stone. Many of us are products from the department. So I was a lifeguard, became instructors, and then, we are where we are. So we do offer that opportunity. So a lot of our laborers do transition to other positions within the department.
But everybody that's working in the pools now, not
So we
laborers.
Yeah. So
right now.
I really deal with laborers. So it's lifeguards and laborers. So our locker attendants, they're laborers. We encourage them if they want to go in the water. We do have adult swim lessons too. So a lot of them take some initiative to want to do it, but not many of them. So the ones that do, we encourage that.
Yeah, I'm just, because I know there's a lot of kids drowning. It's up now throughout the state of New Jersey. So, even at our pools,
Sure.
if they working, to me, it's not like a choice, because you're working in that area. That could be part of your job, because, it's changed. I know a lot of times we want to operate like we used to, but things have changed. And if kids are drowning more so, it seems like we'll be better off if we have pools that every person who's working in that section can swim. It seemed like that's something that we can offer, like we offer training to better them, to up their skills. I think swimming now needs to be a part of your budget somehow, to train the staff to swim if they're going to be working in the pool area.
So, Council President, I think I really like that suggestion. I've never thought of it.
Right.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to admit that out loud, but
Yeah.
that had not occurred to me. I will say that following, obviously, the very close to home drowning incident in Bayonne just a few weeks ago, and
Right.
clearly we're all reading in the news terrible tragedies all
Right.
over. But within hours of finding out about the tragedy in Bayonne, we went right to the books and we took a look at our operations to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to make sure our lifeguards are prepared, that there's nothing slipping through the cracks, if that's even what happened in Bayonne. I'm not,
Right, no, we don't know, right.
I'm not making any assumptions there. And we also not only looked at our own operations, we then doubled back with risk management to make sure that we were in fact doing all the things that we should be doing to not only protect the public and our staff, but also make sure that as a city, we have all the protocols and procedures in place. And so we certainly can explore thinking about our locker attendants and swimming ability from there. It is a good idea. We also, in terms of water safety, I'm sure you guys often hear like people want more. We want more hours at the pool. Why do you have these sessions? That's not fair. I want to come for 12 hours.
Right.
Well, the system we have now with the swim sessions was evolved from asking our staff, how do we do this safely, right? In addition to COVID, but we turned to the staff and said, what can we do to make this job better, right? Like, how can you perform your job better? And they said, we need to have a better way to know who's in the site and who's not, right? We used to have summer camps that would come, bring 50 kids to the pool. We didn't know they were coming. It wasn't a special protocol. They didn't have any specific insurance requirements. They'd be there at the same time as general public. So a family would come, their kids would be in a camp. It was a little chaotic. So we now have specific to camp, we have an entire section for a session, for camps to come and bring their campers. And they have to apply for a permit with us. They have to say, here's my camp. Here's how many kids I'm going to bring. We have a required ratio for that camp of staff to campers.
Yeah.
And that way, when they come in, they give us a head count who's coming in, and then we head count them out. So we know who's in and we know who's out. We're also able to keep the facilities cleaner, which did not used to be the case. And our staff during those breaks, which I'm using in air quotes because they're not breaks, that's when we take the opportunity to do more in-service trainings because we have staff on site during that time, in addition to cleaning and sanitizing the things around us. We also have at that time to balance the water because when the chemicals are off and you need to add something, you can't just jump right in the water, and you certainly can't be adding like chemicals while people are in the pool. So we will look into that possibility, and I appreciate that that suggestion, Council President.
And you can also, money man, you can also, because I remember one time what we did for DBW, because we were short of drivers with CDL license. We gave an incentive. If they would get their CDL license, they would get an extra $1,000 in their pay. I don't know if that's something that we can, look into, because like I said, times has changed, and I think anybody that's working in the pool area should know how to swim. I mean, the janitor, if he's there every day, he should know how to swim, because, I mean, you have kids there, and kids is gonna be kids. I don't care what you say, and you can have the best security there, but there's always kids just wanna be kids. And so we just want to protect them as much as we possibly can. That's why I would try an incentive program personally.
And I like the concept of incentive, and we've been exploring it as well when it comes to lifeguard attendance at work, because we have a lot of call outs and it's a real scramble every morning / afternoon / evening to make sure that we are prepped for the next day or the day that's currently happening. And so we are trying to find out if there is a way to incentivize, like maybe you show up and you're at X number of hours, so then I can like pay you an extra hour or whatever it is, but we need to be within, union rules and all those things. So we're trying to be creative because we want to incentivize people showing up for work and doing their jobs, aside from just paying them.
So, one of the things that I most recently, I know you've heard this because it's for Marion and also for Lafayette Pool, is again the swimming and the scheduling and the request from residents to have more time to swim as opposed to these different allocations. So knowing your challenges with getting staffed up and knowing that you have other people trying to set this up, is there a way that we can communicate out these kind of schedules to residents just to give them a little bit more clarity and to help them better plan for when they can come to the pools, to just sort of be like a proactive as opposed to a reactive things? I know you're getting a lot of phone calls from some residents specifically, but
Yes, we have some enthusiastic parents who have decided to share people's personal cell phones as a method of
wildly
pressure.
inappropriate, but that's a whole other thing. But anyway,
Council President, Councilwoman, the issue is that people only want to go to Lafayette and when the line, and I bet if we go back, as long as that pool's been open, it's the same issue every day. We just have a lot of people now, more people who want to use the facility. We can't go later because we don't have any lights, and it wouldn't be safe for us to be trying to lifeguard and keep people safe and alive in the dark. We don't have any lights in the pools. We're not set up for that, number one. And we're also using every single inch of our manpower we use from 7 in the morning until 7 p.m. And it's, I think, hard for people to understand that. With respect, I think sometimes it's hard for council to understand that until you're really in like the mix of it and understanding how much is involved. So when those people call to complain that we should have more hours, and we say things like, have you been, you told us you live on the west side, have you been to the Bavonia pool? Oh, I don't like that pool. Okay, have you been to the Pershing, indoor pool? I don't like that pool. Okay, so you want more time at this one pool, but you don't have any interest in using different facilities. So I don't know that we're ever going to win on that. But we are using every minute of time with our aquatic staff. We are using to make sure they are prepared, to make sure the facility is clean, to make sure we are providing as many swim lessons as we can.
I guess for me the question would be, like a schedule.
It's been pushed.
Sure, yeah, we could probably post something out that says like, here's what we're doing during this hour break, right?
Is it the whole schedule for the summer or just that 1 hour that we're talking about?
It's a couple of different, and I don't want to take up too much time with this. We'll go and talk with it.
Sure.
It's Pavonia Pool and it's also Lafayette.
Yeah, pardon me. I'll go in the record really quick. I just want to state that the city, only Jersey City has this certification program for the lifeguards. Not many cities in the U.S. offer this to the residents, so it's definitely a plus for them. And I mean, I'm in the pool every day, so a pool is crazy.
You're the reason why they can't get it.
I mean, I do take a lane, but I mean, it's crazy, and then I think they do an amazing job with everything they have. So just want to say that for the record, Jersey City is for sure one of the leaders in the lifeguard programs. It's very difficult to retain lifeguards because we want to move up, but I can assure you they're doing an amazing job.
I have a
Yusuf, you got it.
question. Oh,
Just keep cut.
I have a question. Can we let Councilman Gilmore?
I'm gonna be long.
Gilmore
Yeah,
has the
yeah.
has the
All right,
conch
quick question then,
shell.
on my part. So I see Division Director for Division of Parks and Maintenance is vacant. And then right underneath him, Sammy Ocasio, he's, making 99,000. Why can't he be the division director? I mean, it would really behoove me, like, let's say I applied to be division director, I'm making 90,000, and then Sammy Ocasio's like, he's making 99. Like, why is the person above me making less? That's number one. Number two, I think Sammy does a really good job, like, between you and I, like, and now that he's with this new change, I feel like there has been a change. Maybe it's a placebo effect, but I do feel like he actually has been sending out the laborers, the people and it's really, I've noticed a difference, and I think the residents have noticed a difference. So I think he should be in that position as the division director.
So, Councilman, there is an interest from the administration to make sure that we have someone at the top who has all the qualifications that, as a parks maintenance division, as a city, that we have. So I am actually putting out a job specification for a division director with all of the qualifications, like a pesticide license, which none of our staff currently has, a certified parks and recreation professional, national certification, which are things I've spoken to Sammy about, but the hope is that we get the best possible person with all those qualifications. Maybe it will be Sammy by the time the applications are coming in. I also have seen Sammy, do a responsible job, and he's communicative with his staff and communicative with the public. And we want to make sure that the division director of our parks system is someone who is fully knowledgeable of our park system. Sammy has certainly shown himself to be knowledgeable, but we're going to put it out there and give a fair shake to everybody for the qualifications that we really need, because currently we rely upon some of the vendors who have the qualifications. Like, we don't do things certainly as a city because we don't have those qualifications. So we're going to see if we can get there.
So is it, I guess, are these hard certifications to get? Because I guess I'm just thinking, if there's that many certifications that you need to be overseeing parks, right? Are we finding somebody with that certification at 90,000 is the first question. And the second question, is it easier to just make sure Sammy gets those certifications
Right.
and move him into the division director position? Like, do we even need, I guess, this extra layer? Like, if we move him to division director, can we save the 90,000?
Well, I perhaps, there's some things that come from the top, and I try to make sure I'm implementing things while doing the best services that we can for the community. And I've spoken with Sammy about the qualifications that I would like to see, and through the National Recreation and Parks Association and the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association, I've been listening to what types of qualifications people are looking for, right? And managing unioned employees in a large city and a large park system is an art. And I agree that Sammy has been executing, and we're going to make sure the best person is at the top of that chart. It might be Sammy, councilwoman and councilman, but we want to make sure that we get there.
So, I have a lot of questions, but since we on this part right here, so what specific functions are changing from when Parks and Forestry was in DPW versus now that is in recreation?
Good question. So I don't think in terms of like what are we actually doing, I don't think it's going to be that different. But what is going to be different is we're going to be working together instead of having an opportunity for things to fall through the cracks. Number one, I think that's important. And we also are going to be sort of specializing, right? We have our general parks maintenance, and then we're also going to have an entire team just for athletic fields. So right now we have one crew who handles athletic fields, but we have 26 athletic fields across the city, and they need to be in better condition.
So in a nutshell, essentially, there's really nothing changing other than an extra layer of accountability or whatever. My whole thing is if he's already was the division director there and we shift the whole entity, why? This is what really ruffles my feathers with the reconfiguring and moving places. Now we have almost another 100,000 of salary in a position that's vacant. Now the person under that person can potentially be making. It's just an environment for disaster waiting to happen.
Let me ask you something, Director. How long does it take to get some of these certifications? That might clear us up here, because if it takes a year.
It doesn't take a
Oh,
year.
okay, that's what we want to know.
It doesn't take a year.
Could Sammy go to a course for 6 weeks and get some of the certification? Could he go for 8 weeks to get this certification? He knows this, right?
Yes,
Is he
Councilwoman, he
going
does.
for this at
He
this
certainly
time?
does.
Because we can move on. Is he going for it?
Yes, he is.
Okay, then, now we know. That's it. That's what we wanted to know. Sammy, we rooting for you.
Yep. Just to,
I guess.
Councilman, just to point something out, right now, that division director salary is our past practice. $90,000 has been the standard. We recently kind of restructured the salaries for certain division directors based on certain qualifications, certificates. So the new base salary for all division directors is going to be $100,000. So while that's still a small gap here between the two employees, I would probably say like that's probably some longevity included as well, but there won't be any situation where a subordinate is making more than a division director. And if there's a demotion to whatever title they're demoted to, they typically would be demoted to that salary as well. But obviously that's not reflected yet because nothing's
Well,
official.
just so the record reflect, I would prefer to do away with that whole assistant or whatever, use that 100,000 or whatever's left on more recreation programs instead of, I mean, I don't know how much more manpower they would need. Again, it's the same exact division moving from one entity to another entity, and now they need more money, they need more training, they need more of this, they need more of that. But I guess my questions are pretty much geared towards specifically what does youth enrichment do, and specifically what does recreation do, and is there overlap? Are we using the same people to provide whatever these services are?
So in the version where we have, how it's going to move forward, where I have all the programming under enrichment, is that what you're asking? Are there overlaps?
No.
So by restructuring, not restructure, by grouping people who are doing, who are carrying out similar tasks together, I'm trying to get rid of that overlap because we, like in, you'll see on the parks, I don't know where you are, but on the parks division, you'll see like Dave Cosme and Charlie George, right, who work for recreation. Before, now they worked for recreation, but they are park attendants and they lock the parks up at night and they turn on and off athletic lighting. But then there's also people who are park attendants in parks who do something different, which doesn't make any sense. So now that those staff members are going to be with everyone else who's caring for parks, right? So if we have to figure something out, it's not calling a different team, it's, okay, let's get this done, right? We have like 18 playgrounds and parks that recreation locks up, and then all the rest are locked up by parks. That doesn't make a lot of sense. We should know at the end of the day, we should have a system that says everything's locked without making 10 phone calls and trying to figure out how that happened, right? Like security guards. We use security guards at our facilities, but we also use security guards at summer camp, right? But summer camp is a program that's twofold. It's under, falls all under enrichment because it's a program where we're trying to invite kids in and have them, engaged and come back to us, right? That's important, number one. And also, it's a jobs program because there's two goals, right? Provide a great camp and provide a great work experience for a lot of our youth in the city that it's their first job. So there's two different tasks happening there, right? You need some staff in enrichment who's looking after the other staff and making sure they get the training and the good experience, right? That we're adding financial literacy and, timing and minding your schedule, things that are really important in your first job and that you can grow from. And at the same time, we also need you to put on a great program, right? So those are the things that are happening there, but it's not a mixture.
No, I guess maybe I should rephrase the question. Like what like when you say Division of Youth Enrichment, right? Specifically, what does that entail? This program, this program, this program, this is what they do in that program.
Okay.
Then, Division of Recreation, this is what we do. We have the leagues, we have this, we have that. I'm
Great.
trying to see where is the differentiation between the two
Okay.
entities.
So if you want to turn to page 9 on here, and I went with the method we were given, but that's here I can break that down, and hopefully that answers your question, Councilman. So our director's office provides and supports the fiscal, administrative, and transportation needs for the entire department. Our Division of Enrichment is responsible for city-led efforts that grow our youth's social, ethical, emotional, physical, and cognitive competencies. All organized, non-aquatic programming is designed and implemented by the Division of Enrichment. Furthermore, the Division of Enrichment is responsible for city-led efforts to provide youth with career exploration and professional development opportunities, to involve youth in our community, right, through volunteer projects or things like the Jersey City Youth Council. And third, to coordinate and implement summer camp, which again, throughout all of these things, our sports programs, Councilman, during the summer, we go hard, right? We bring on extra staff to help run sports programs in addition to running camp, in addition to running the pools. But you can't just put a bunch of 16-year-olds on a basketball court and have a basketball program. You got to train them. You got to think about the goals of the program, and we need to have that. So anything that's a program that we're inviting people in that's not in the water or on skates is under enrichment. Now, what we thought of in the past was enrichment is non-sports, and then we kept sports under recreation. But we've got a whole world of facilities with aquatics, and there are a third of our employees are in aquatics, and they need to be recognized as that. And it is recreation with facilities, right? Because we don't own any facilities other than those ones. Let me go ahead. Now we go to recreation. The division is responsible for providing quality professional recreation facilities, right? That's our facilities, including Pershing Pool, Pavonia Pool, Johnston Pool, Pershing Community Center, and the Pershing Rink. And additionally, the Armory, when we lease it as a city, we have a whole team that has to go over there and make sure that we have security, that we're cleaning it, that we're scheduling it, all those things. The Division of Recreation is also responsible for the management, permitting, and coordination of all of our athletic fields, pools, and rink, including swim and skate classes, to promote responsible access to all community members. And then we come to our parks, which is responsible for year-round, daily, and long-term upkeep of all cities' passive park areas, which playgrounds, courts, splash pads, utility grass, athletic fields, as well as those facilities managed by the department. So that's where we come in with like the Zamboni. The Zamboni is not driven by enrichment or recreation employees. It's actually handled by parks. So those are the three silos now to make sure that we're covering everything and making the best use of the skill set that we have, which is a lot of skills, and we have a lot of things going on in our department. And
So I
guess-
feel like the titles are a little confusing, right? Because when I see Division of Recreation, I'm thinking that all the sports are going under them, and you're telling me that it really has nothing to do with sports. Sports is under enrichment. And when I hear enrichment, I think about the initial, reorganization where we said we wanted to focus on more things like outside of recreation, I don't know, resume building or things like that.
Right.
I haven't heard us talk about any of that stuff. So to me, that's enrichment, and recreation is basketball, football, everything sports-wise. So maybe we want to consider renaming some of the divisions.
I don't think that you're wrong. I would love to call it programming and facilities management. And when the ordinance was configured just a few weeks ago, it left the three divisions titled like this, which is why I'm here before you with the three divisions titled like this. Not because
Yeah. No,
I
I'm
think
just
it should
saying,
be programming. I submit it should be programming, facilities, right, and park maintenance.
Because the major issue, right, and one of my major concerns is when the conversation came about enrichment programs, like, wow, it's a great idea. Mentorship programs, financial literacy program, help with all type of enrichment things to help build character, and then subsequently, once you did the enrichment, you know how to conduct yourself. Then I mean, you can add an extra level of enrichment in sports, but sports in itself, it's its own separate It's what you
Recreation.
do. It's what, like, sports is sport.
Sure, and when you look at the organizational chart for the staff within what is now called enrichment, but again, is programming, the left side is all the sports programming, and the right side are the additional efforts, and how you're talking about financial literacy.
Right.
We
Yes.
are doing all of those things, and it's not, it's not Mandy Johnson running a check balancing class. Mandy Johnson is organizing basketball programs.
yes.
Right? So those staff members are all doing sports, right? But thinking about sports as if they are not also character building.
Oh, no, definitely
I
they are.
submit
Yes,
that's an
yes.
unfair statement. And a program, right, should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and a goal. And we've worked with our staff over the past couple years. I've been almost 3 years now to make sure that that's how we're running all of our programs. It's not one program is just sort of existing, and then another program has a beginning, middle, and end. So there's similar characteristics to running whatever kind of program. You want to teach bucket drumming, you want to teach dance, you want to run chess, you want to do basketball, you want to do soccer. Well, you have to recruit kids, you got to get them signed up, you got to check them in, right? You got to teach them whatever it is you said you were going to teach them. You need to do it well so they're engaged. You need to communicate with parents so that they know where they're supposed to be, right? And then you got to wrap it all up at the end, and so that they either want to come back for the next program or they want to try something different within the department.
Okay, so is there any way we can incorporate some mentor programs, financial literacy programs, life skill program, behavior modification?
Yeah,
Like,
that should be
Yeah.
under enrichment.
And we are doing those things. But before, when we first did the reorganization, enrichment was viewed as a standalone, and we had, and it was envisioned that like all the seasonal employees would go under there. But ultimately, the seasonal summer employees are working on a basketball program, or they're working all over the place, and they're part of a program. And we need to think of it as, how are we training this employee? How are we engaging this employee? For some kids, it is just a 6-week opportunity. For some adults, it's a 6-week opportunity. We get all ages asking for employment during the summer.
So let me ask you something, with your division of enrichment, can't you just put all the different programs under there? That
That's
might
where-
give us more clarity, instead of adding like recreation activity in here too. I think that's where the confusion is coming. Just keep the activities under recreation and just keep the programming pretty much, like, I don't know, all your programs, like chess program, or, you say you have a resume program, reading program. If you just name everything program under enrichment, that may help us separate it in our brains somehow. I don't know. Sometimes we're young and we just don't get it.
I don't believe that's the case, Council President. I know it's a brain change to think about something that's a sport not being called
Correct.
the Division of Recreation.
Right.
I recognize that. And you guys might remember when when I was before you, not as a department director, but
Right.
speaking on the reorganization, because the
Yes.
then director did not show up.
Right.
And at that juncture, the vision was to be the Department of Youth Development with 2 arms underneath. And at the last moment at that council meeting, the request was, wait a minute, you need to keep the word recreation. So that's how we became Department of Recreation
why, I
and Youth
remember.
Development.
Right.
So the concept was always to remember that what we are doing is engaging youth.
Right.
Thinking about character, thinking about commitment, dealing with loss, dealing with success, all the things that are involved in any sort of program. So with respect, I'm happy to, I would have liked to call these different divisions. It should be programming, it should be facilities and aquatics, and then it should be parks. And that is how our staff is set up. I just am confined by the silos of our city's code that name these 3 divisions.
Okay.
Give me those 3 names again: programming,
Programming.
facilities.
Facilities and aquatics would be together as one, and then park maintenance.
So we have to do another resolution or ordinance? Yeah.
I'll
change
be
it.
back on it, don't worry, because there's
Okay.
some language in the parks.
That has to change,
Has to
okay.
change as well.
And also, we briefly spoke about this over the weekend, with the
Berry Lane.
sprinkler caps down Berry Lane. Is there any way we can have multiple vendors and order multiple parts, so that way we don't come into a situation where it's extremely hot, and then, because the optics is, they're like, oh, Coach Wu, downtown, there's water, And it's like, no, it's really broke. The pieces, it's real. So is there any way we can, order to, if one went bad, we'll order one to replace it, we'll have one on standby, or we have multiple vendors, because one vendor, hey, we can't get it, the parts and use back are staying in, we can't get there right now.
Yep, so Councilman, I've been having that conversation with Parks as well, because like we don't have basketball rims like in stock.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
We
when
don't
a
have
basketball rim, we
inventory.
got to order it, right? And so like when we have a new playground that's built, and an issue that I find is that we have when we get a new playground, we get a new thing, it's because some different developer built it, and they built it with the materials that they're using and the company that they're using, and then they say, here's your product, right? So I submit we should be building in like a requirement that if you build a playground, then you should you should also buy duplicate of every part and let us store it here. So when the
Correct.
slide goes, we're ready. We don't need to build an entire new playground because that slide is no longer manufactured, right? And that is a practice that actually was recommended through some other cities with the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association. So it absolutely makes sense, and I'm trying to figure that out on the park side. For sure. And we're also building in some sort of in-house checks where we can inspect our own equipment and try to be proactive. Berry Lane specifically, and by the way, Councilman, they are there today with it. And you are also on point with the different vendors and trying to make sure that like we're getting the right price on things, right? Like the vendor that we have for our maintenance at Berry Lane, when they told us this thing is broken and this part is really specific, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get it. We called in another company as well to offer us and to ask for a quote as well. So we could do just that, make sure that the very expensive part was actually required and that it was actually going to solve the problem. And so we had two people give us that information, and then the entity, that we went to order the part is actually not the entity that we have on our other, general maintenance. But we are already in the process of starting that conversation with the law department to make sure that, if we have things that have to go to bid, that we're not doing something improper by making sure we have what we need to get things fixed quickly. We should also not be building any more closed sprinkler systems like the splash pad at Berry Lane is. It does not function well. It gets jammed up in a heartbeat, and it is very expensive to maintain, which it's fine, things cost money, but that system is not one we should be repeating across the city.
Okay.
Do you have a position on the turfing of fields? Because, Councilman Boggiano and I have entertained the idea of turfing up Pershing Field, but just wanted to know from a management standpoint, is it easier for you guys? Is it the same? Is it going to make a difference? And also, would you be able to permit out or, let people sign up to do other things in those turfed up fields if this was to happen?
I mean, it would behoove the city to have a mixture of artificial turf fields and grass fields, because there's different things that can be played on different surfaces. That being said, if you want to turf every athletic field across the city that we own, you're not going to get any argument from us on the athletic side. With that as slightly a joke, because with turf there's less chemicals that you're using on it, so they're not washing off and into the ground from an environmental perspective, right? The longevity is much different, the playing surface is much different, and a turf field can be used basically rain or shine. So long as there's not a foot of snow on that field, you can use it. But along with the turf field, what does that mean? That means we're going to then be thinking about like how much does it cost to light it? Who's going to oversee those permits? Because that's when we start to get into a lot of community overlap with who wants things. So there are certainly a few problem fields that Joe Mackey would love to find out tomorrow are being turfed. I can give you that list in short order. But we have a few fields that are a mess. And when it rains, it makes the city look bad because we can't dry a field magically, but that makes fields unplayable. It's very frustrating for the athletes, which I'm sure you all hear about. And it's very expensive to turf things. It's a lot more, it's $500,000 to turf out Martucci Field, which we just completed that project. And that's a small field, right? And that was $500,000.
Yes.
Whereas $500,000 in staff and machinery that we already own is a different story. So I was slightly joking when I said if we wanted to turf out every field, let's go for it. But we do have some priorities where we know there are problem areas, and we know that the moisture on those fields prohibit play when the weather's not right. So there's like 3 off the top of my head that I'm like, I've already asked architecture, you know, can you price out what's this going to be? And I'm going to be on my hit list when I sit down for the
Is
the
there any
projects and
grants
capital.
we can get? I'm just curious.
So there are a bunch of grants that we actually are using already, like we use open space and we use green acres and things like that. But the trick with those, some of those dollars, especially the state money, is that there's requirements on what you can do thereafter. We, which I'm gonna get to when again, I know I'm talking a lot, but if you wanted to turn to page, let's see, it's either 10 or 11, but these are some of those exact things, Councilwoman, trying to think ahead, right? Like, how do we improve these things? How do we even improve ourselves from a procedural standpoint? So let me come back here for a second. What I'm trying to do, rec desk, we've all heard complaints about rec desk. Rec desk is not the saving grace, but it has some skills, some abilities that we do need. That being said, it doesn't do everything for us, right? So another company that does recreational software has approached us, and they're willing to work with us and actually build our dream program that does what we need to do. So you're going to probably hear from, not probably, you're going to hear from me soon saying, what have you heard from the constituents about something they want to see, right? And from talking to professionals across the country, it doesn't seem, there's no one answer, right? Everybody's trying to figure out those things. I now have one entire staff member who just literally goes through registration to make sure that we identify as many kids as we can who are enrolled in overlapping programs, i.e., I enrolled my kid in Monday basketball and Monday soccer and Monday football. You can't go to all those programs, right? That was intended for 3 different people, and you just took all of them. So we go through our attendance list. We go through wait lists. I have literally a full-time staff member who just does that all day long to make sure. We check our attendance now to make sure that if you're signed up, you're showing up. And when you don't show up, we follow up with you and say, hey, you haven't been here, 2 or 3 times. Are you going to be in this program or not? Or else we can give the spot to somebody else. Because we have to keep safe ratios when it comes to staffing and kids, right? You can't have 100 kids and 1 staff member doing a good job. That's not safe or fair.
And currently it's what is it, 6 or 7 to how old? The age demographic?
For camp or for which?
No, just for the programs in general.
We are now, so if we have soccer and basketball programs that start could be as early as at age 3, depending whose program you're in, but 3 or 4. And we have those consistently now. So we don't have just like a sort of a one-off program for basketball. We have every Friday is that 4 to 6-year-old opportunity. And those classes are busting at the seams, which I don't need to tell you,
Yes.
right? In a track, we start at age 5. Boxing, we don't start till age 8, just because of the nature of what's going on there. We have found that our programming geared towards the athletic programs for older guys, nobody's signing up and they're not coming, right? So
The guys, what age demographic?
like soccer between the 11 to 14, if we have like, it might be better now that Martucci Field is back open, but we have much less engagement at that age. So we are trying
So we
to,
go up to, what is it, 17? No, like, I've seen some basketball program, I think they had people going up to 21 or something.
sometimes we have, most of the stuff, if it's open to that age, it'd probably go up to 24, because
Oh,
age
to
24 in our ordinance identifies that
Okay,
as,
that's-
still the youth age.
So is there any way that we can have, I know I'm taking it back a minute now, they actually had like adult basketball programs, and I mean, these adults should be able to pay for, admission.
Yeah. So, Councilman, if I might, that is where the beauty of the facilities division really comes in, right? Because if we're talking about you using our facility to run your own program, right? Like, why don't we have people who, hockey does it, right? We have ice hockey.
Yes.
Because people know that we have the ice and they have leagues and they want to use our ice for it. Why don't we have a roller hockey league in the summer, right? Why don't we have those things? They don't all have to be run by the city, but if we're providing the space for it for someone who's already organized, that's where our facilities come in, because that's not a program that we're running, that our staff who's running programming also needs to oversee. Does that make sense?
No, it makes complete sense, and that's what I was alluding to, because at one point, we would essentially be responsible for the facility, but you will rent it out to that third party.
Yep.
Contingent upon this, they have this, that, and the third.
Correct.
And they will pay they will pay something and they will lease in the burden. And it works for recreation anyway, because a lot of times, we can actually have multiple activities going on at one time. And from a financial standpoint, it just makes sense. So that's why I was asking about that.
I have two questions, and they're really not related. Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah,
you
no, I
weren't
wasn't
done?
finished, because you were sharing it, so your questions are more important than mine. Yeah, because it's for, Amy and Denise.
We'll get back to you. We know you got a lot of questions. When we were talking about rec desk and all of those other things, back to youth development, are the youth development programs that you're talking about, like financial literacy and all that, is that on rec desk? And how do we, I guess, get that information out to the community? Because I see on like city social media, when there's a soccer program, there's a flyer. When it's youth football, there's a flyer. I see nothing about any of the, I guess, quote unquote, enrichment programs that we've been discussing.
Fair. And I guess I'm racking my brain with flyers, and perhaps we don't make as many, sort of flyers and push those out, because the phone calls usually are coming in like, when are you going to open up soccer? How do I do it? Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the, I know we're calling it enriching, but like workplace readiness things, we will directly target folks who have been involved in our programs and we know are in the right age range. So those might not be things that we're just putting out, blanket. But we certainly, Emerlyn is running all those programs or overseeing tons of different trainings. When an opportunity comes to us, we share it out. So we should be doing more social media stuff there. I guess when we're not usually hurting for participants in soccer, that's what, the sports, that's what everyone wants to know, when. Meanwhile, we're chasing people down for like chess. We're chasing people down. And some of the things that we've tried, we don't get the right engagement, so we don't do it again, right? But improving our communication for those additional non-athletic programs, we will certainly do that. The past couple months, we've been focusing on our youth staff coming in, and that's where all of our training, if you will, has been focused, because we started programs yesterday with thousands of kids across the city, because they're either working for us or because they're in our programs, and we need to be ready for that.
My last question, I guess,
Sure.
now is,
I have a few questions though, but
no, I think this
After
might
you.
be my last one for now. I know I'm gonna, no,
I
literally,
had to
I
get him
have,
for you,
I have,
because he
Well,
got me when I was up there early. I had to get him back.
So with respect to the individuals that got, like, how do we, are these merit raises? 'Cause I know, previously, when, raises were there, they cited what the reasons were for. I see here, we see several individuals got raises, but there's no justification on here for that. Are those?
You're in the Parks division?
No, I'm actually in the budget, the actual budget book.
Yep, can I
so
look over your shoulder,
maybe-
Councilman, just so I know?
Yes.
And this is,
What department?
okay, so these, I was, as a director, I listened when I was told we don't give raises to people in the union, so I stopped asking after 3 years, because I get turned down every year, although we do have some pay discrepancies when it comes to our aquatic staff that I would love some help getting it across the finish line, because it's necessary. That being said, so this year I did not request merit raises, because I've gotten hard no's every year on it from prior to coming before council. That's what I will say on that.
hard nose from who? Okay, I'm not gonna open the can of worms right now.
No, but some of these raises are individuals that's in the union.
Yep.
So even in light of all that, is there any, like, what are the justifications? Is it a cost of living adjustment, or like, I just want to know what is it? I don't know.
Sure. So if you on the Parks Division, if you look over there, they have a bunch of requests that were called merit raises, I believe. They say additional work. If
That's
you,
probably-
Like Bernard, is Mike Rizzo, is that?
right, like Mike Rizzo, Bernard Herc, exactly. So those are increases that were requested by the Parks Division prior to the budget coming to me. I am going to tell you that next year when I come before you, I will be asking for merit raises not across the board, but for those who require who are due merit raises. I did not put them in this year as a director because this is my third year in, and I was advised against that. My aquatic staff, though, in light of the increase to the $17 per hour minimum wage last summer and the soon-to-be implemented minimum wage of 20 for full-time permanent employees, I have a lot of staff specifically on my aquatic side who have certifications, and they are not receiving compensation to account for their certifications that are required for their job. So I have lifeguards and managers who are called supervisors of baths and pools. I have them right now being paid the same as an 18-year-old laborer who comes to, be a locker attendant. And it's not appropriate and it's not fair, and we can better retain our talented staff by paying them appropriately. So I have a
What's the appropriate number, though? What's the appropriate number that
I have
you'd
a whole
like to?
chart that I'm happy to share, Councilman.
Absolutely, because
on the wages that should be in place for, a part-time permanent, part-time, seasonal, underage, overage. I have it across the board that I submit should be implemented. It's not appropriate to be required to have higher certifications for your job and then not be rewarded for the higher certifications for your job.
So Kyle, how does when the announcement goes out that we're changing the, I guess, city minimum wage per se, how does that work? Because I think we had this conversation before in regards to lifeguards, that the pay changed and the lifeguards' pay didn't change. So now that it's at 20 and we see on here that lifeguards are getting 17, how does that change happen or not happen for certain people?
This recent change in the minimum wage is strictly for full-time permanent employees, so it won't pertain to any part-time lifeguards, whereas last year it did, $17 an hour for anyone 18 plus. And all those salary changes, obviously, they are presented to Human Resources, and they make sure that anyone that is entitled to those increases does receive it. Anything beyond that, as far as pay equity, developing a different type of hierarchy to represent the new minimum wage, that does have to get run by the administration and HR again. And if there's any obligation for us to do so, we would. But as of right now, no lifeguard is going to be on $20 an hour unless they're full-time.
my question is, well, I have a few, but how's the food for the camp?
They started yesterday.
They started yesterday. I don't think they're-
What's the reception been to the new vendor?
So the new vendor that we're only using the new vendor for Pershing. Then we need me to use the record.
Yeah, you need to be on the record.
My projections. So we're only using the vendor that we did last year, with Health and Human Services at Pershing Field, and so far it's been extremely positive. The rest, we are back in schools this year, so we have about 5 different schools, and that's all through the Board of Education. But seriously, like last year, no complaints at all so far.
Wait, no.
Wait.
No, we're not using the vendor from last year?
No, the Health and Human Services switched into it.
So, yeah, with Health and Human
Because
Services.
I know we had a problem.
You got a new vendor, and they're very good. They're at Pershing
I
Field.
think what Division Director Donald
Rotation
meant is that it's the Health Department's summer food program, because our summer camps, which is where we use summer food, 5 of our 6 summer camps are taking place in the Board of Education owned buildings. And when we operate within the Board of Education's buildings, they're the ones that handle the food, right? So it's their summer food program that is feeding campers at 5 of our sites. One of our sites is at Pershing Field Community Center, which is not a school, obviously. So at that site, that's where we are enrolled as a site for the summer food program.
But.
Is it the same vendor?
I do not believe so. I believe
no,
there's
it's
a
not.
different vendor.
So it's a brand new vendor, yeah.
It's a new vendor, yes, okay.
And it's been very positive.
All right.
Okay, the kid.
Don't be checking the food.
I will be going 21 Jump Street style and like
Councilman, please do not eat the food.
Undercover.
It's 18 and under.
My other question is, I know, one second, hold on, let me just check. Joe Mackey, you're a legend. is it true you're gonna retire, or is that what, like, that's the word on the street, but I don't know if that's, you know.
You'll have
Okay.
you'll have to speak to his agent.
Okay, we'd love to keep you, that's why. I heard you're a wealth of knowledge.
He,
He's I.
So let me ask you something, Director. I see you have a vacancy, Assistant Director. Do you plan on filling that? Saw that back here. somewhere.
You're talking about in division, in the parks?
Your division, your department, Director.
no, this,
I looked at Assistant Director. I think that was you.
So right now, we have Mackie in the
Director
deputy.
Office, Director Office, Assistant Director is a vacancy.
The one before.
Oh, see,
Where?
we got a budget book. We do look
Oh,
at
the
our
budget book?